All right. Hello. It is Wednesday. If you're on the West Coast, it is noon, and it's time for another Courier Live. Today, I'm joined with one of our engineers from our engineering team, Tony, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hey everyone, like Aydrian said, I'm Tony. I started about 4 months ago on March 16th, which in San Francisco was the first day we did the lockdown. So I've been with Courier since the beginning of COVID lockdown and been remote. But yeah, I'm a full stack engineer. I came from the .NET world, transitioned into Node.js about like the early 2010s and got into React like about 2016. And I've been doing all kinds of Node and React stuff since then. Glad to be here.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I think I started out, I did a lot of Java. That was the learning language we used in college. And then whenever I got my job, I switched over to .NET. It was like 1.1 at the time, and then it went into 2.0, and it was like big time. And then that's where I stopped. And I think I've been Node ever since. But it's great to have Tony joining me. Today we're going to talk about Courier logs. If anybody knows me, they know this is one of my favorite parts of our product. This stream, I think, was originally going to be called Aydrian Won't Shut Up About Logs, but we eventually settled on Courier Live. So today we're going to kind of take a trip and view all of the things that our logs can do, all of the helpful things that make developers' lives easier and people using Courier in general. And some of the features were actually implemented by Tony, so this will be great. So I'm going to switch over. Let's take a look at Courier. So whenever you log into Courier, and by the way, if you are using email password, we now support magic links. So it's email and magic link, which is great because it's got your two-factor auth built in, it's got your email verification built in, and it's one less password you have to remember. So I'm already logged in, so you don't have to see me go through all of that. But this is the main page. And when we're talking about logs, we're talking about this data section of the design UI. And this will take you in, and it will show you a list of events for all of the messages that you've sent. So you can see I've got a lot of them. I've got Daisy May ones coming from the project with Chloe and I for Animal Crossing. I've got random demos, testing, things like that. You can see a lot of emails going out by SendGrid because we list the provider that was sent. But we're going to walk through kind of like the life cycle and what happens as you send a message. So first, let's switch over. And beforehand, I kind of coded up a little demo. And so we're going to look at sending a message. And so in my account, I have I want to be able to send a notification for whenever Courier goes live for Courier Live. And so I've mocked up a request to Courier to send this notification. And so we'll briefly walk through it. This is using the Node.js client library. I've got some data that I'm going to pass over that's got the title, information about the hosts, namely our names and our Twitter handles. And then I'm going to use the send command. I'm going to send over an event that I'm calling Courier_live_alert. I'm setting my recipient ID, which is just my name and my zip code. Recipient IDs can be whatever you want. You want to make sure that it's unique. System IDs work the best. But for this example, this is going to work for me, just in case there's an Aydrian in a different zip code, I guess.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah, doubtful. But then I'm going to go ahead and send over some profile information. I'm adding my email, and you'll notice that I put a little plus Courier at the end just to change up my email address. And then I'm passing over some custom information into my profile. That's my Twitter account. And so we can go ahead and execute this. So I'm just going to go node, index. Then we're going to get back a message ID. And so you can see here that I'm just pulling out the message ID, and I'm console logging it. So this is going to be important later, but for now, we can switch back over to our Courier logs, and we can refresh this. Give it a minute. And so you can see 19 seconds ago, a courier live alert came in for my recipient, and you can see that the question that it was undelivered. Undelivered.
Why? Why did that happen?
Why does these things always happen to me, right? But the good thing is we know that our call worked and we got things into Courier. So this is a very good sign, even though it was not delivered. So we can open up the emails. We can open up the event and we can see information about the call that was made. So this is really nice if maybe your developers and your product team are kind of separated. So the developer just knows to make the call. And then you can kind of work with each other to debug it. You can grab all this information, send screenshots, make copies. So this does match the message ID that we got. So that's great. Here's the recipient. And then you can see the event that was received. I really, really enjoy this. So this is everything that was passed over in that API call. So you can see the data that came over. You can see the event. You can see the profile information and the recipient. That's great, especially if you're building the message and you are wanting to use some of that profile or data information as variables in the message, like you've seen us do previously. But if we go down here to the next event on the timeline, is it an event on the timeline, Tony?
It's timeline history, yeah.
The timeline history, yes, that's a good name for it. And you can see that the reason that it was not delivered was because there was no notification mapped to that event. So by sending event IDs, you have the ability to make that ID whatever you like. But inside Courier, you do need to map it to a notification for it to actually send. So on our previous episode talking about sending events with Segment, we talked about how events would just come in from Segment and they wouldn't send until you start mapping them. So from the log right here, we can go ahead and we can map the event. And so before we started, I went ahead and set up a Courier Alive alert notification. And so if I save that, that will map that alert. And you can see that we are now in the settings events section of the app. And you can see the event. So whenever this event comes in, we're going to push it to this notification. And if we go back to the logs, I believe we can hit send again.
You can. Yeah, I was going to say that's a nice way to just like retest your message to see if it will deliver.
Right. So if you had, let's say, a developer send an event over, but it wasn't mapped, you could go in and you could map that event and then click this send again button. And so we'll go ahead and close that. And I think I need to update. And so here you can see that we have an event and the event came in and it's mapped to this notification. It was also sent out via SendGrid. So you can see the provider right here. So I can hover. And then that presents us with more information in the log. So you can see that we have more history in the timeline. So we have now an enqueued date, we have a send date, and we have a status of sent. Tony, what does a sent status mean?
Sent basically means that we successfully used the provider, in this case SendGrid, and they accepted our request to them.
Excellent.
So we're almost there. So we're almost there. It's not quite done yet, but we basically said we did our job. It's up to SendGrid to do their part now. Excellent.
And okay, so we've got again the event received. We've got information about it being mapped. So you can see that the event ID that came in was mapped to the notification ID of that Courier live alert. So behind the scenes, it's using this ID. And then we can go and look in information about the profile loaded. So what this is showing is a merge between the information that we have stored inside Courier for this recipient and what was sent over. So if you remember, we we sent over an email of this Aydrian demo plus Courier at gmail.com, and we also sent over in the profile this custom object. So whenever we look at the profile loaded, we can see that we have the email that we sent over, we have that custom object, and then we have some other information that's part of the profile that's already been saved. And if we take a little look over here inside, I'm going to go ahead and do a get on this profile. Yeah. I'm going to hit send. Can I make that bigger? Can't make that bigger. That's that would have been nice. But you can see that if I take the recipient ID and put it towards our profiles API and pull back what we have stored inside Courier, you can see that the email that we have in there is aydrian.demo@gmail.com. So what we're seeing is the email address that I passed over in the profile is taking precedence. So it's what you're getting back is a merge of that profile. So that's nice. This is really good if you are storing, say, Slack information. So if you wanted to put a Slack notification together, there's a user ID and an access token that needs to be stored, and you don't want to have to store that other places. So it's really good to put that inside the Courier profiles database, and then that will get merged in, and you can just use it. Okay, cool. All right, and then next up in the timeline, we have I think this is really cool. It's pretty new to me, but we have what the rendered notification looks like. So we're gonna look at it. We've got this subject line: "Come check us." I think I meant to put out. Come check us out at Courier.
Check us.
Wow. Well, that's good. We can fix that later.
Almost.
Come check us on Courier Live.
Okay, now that you say it, okay, not quite.
Yeah, you know what? It made sense in my head when I was putting it out there, but maybe not. And so we've got information, Courier Live with the title. You can see where I'm pulling in my given name from my profile, and then it's got information about Aydrian and Tony are live, and those are links to Twitter, our Twitter accounts. And then we have a nice button that if you click it, it will take you to twitch.tv/trycourier. And then I have everything nicely branded in a Courier Live brand. So that's really cool. We can see that. And then we see this is the current status, right, Tony?
Yes, this is the latest status we know about for SendGrid.
Okay. And so this information that we're seeing in this tab is the information that's being passed back to us from SendGrid?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So we have gotten this far. We've sent the message. I'm going to go over to my email. And all right. So this is a good thing. It showed up in the primary inbox, didn't show up in spam, and it didn't show up in promotions. If you've been with us before, you know that my poor demo account has the worst deliverability. So I never know where it's going to end up showing up in my inbox. But here it is. And so if we click on it, it does indeed look like the preview that we rendered, which is great. And because we opened it, we can zip back over to our logs. I think we do a nice little update. And we can see that this icon here has gone from sent to opened. So we've got what is that? 3/4 of the circle filled in, which means it's opened. And when we go and we look at the logs again, we can see that we have another history item in the timeline, and that's on opened. And what information are we passing back here, Tony?
It's basically information from basically where it was opened from. So
okay.
Just a quick summary.
All right, yeah. And so we know things about the user agent. Great, yeah. But we do know that it was opened, and we know the time that it was open, so that's great. We have some other statuses here. I'm afraid. Oh, wait, I can click on some of the other ones.
You can click on the link on the email.
Yeah. I was thinking if I click on Watch Now, then we're going to get some kind of weird Inception effect where we where we are opening a window of our stream.
Mirror. Yeah.
But I can go ahead and we'll click on mine. So if I click on this link, it's going to open up my Twitter. There's my Twitter. Feel free to follow me. Just a lonely pyromaniac seeking a fur creek match. And so we go back over here and we'll go ahead and refresh once again. And maybe it was too soon. Or wait. Do I have? This is.
That's actually a good question. Is your tenant set up for click-through tracking?
You know what? It might not be.
Let's check that out.
Yeah. Okay. So a few of these statuses you get like right off the bat without having to do anything. I think that's a good thing to mention. So sent, opened, those will happen without any kind of intervention from you. But if you want some of these other ones, then we do need to go into the settings, right?
Yeah.
Oh look, click-through tracking. So, yeah. Okay, so that was disabled, right? Yeah. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and enable that, which means we should probably send another message, right?
Yes, we need to do that.
All right. So let's send another message. That's easy enough. We can go over here and we'll just run this command again. And we've got another message ID, so that's great. We'll go back over to the logs, and it did come in. It's showing as sent, so that's great. I'm going to go ahead and go over and find it. Oh, we don't need that. All right, so it's threading, which is swell. And so here is the new message that came in. We're going to go ahead and click a link again and pick up where we left off. All right.
This will work.
Yeah, I think this will work. Welcome to another episode of Aydrian doesn't have his account fully set up. Yeah. Okay. So we'll go ahead and. All right. So now we've got a full circle. Full circle means that it's clicked. But if we go in here and investigate, we have the sent history. We've got opened because we did open it, and then now we've got clicked. And we've got some more information about the link that was clicked. So you can see that it was the text of the link was Aydrian. The href that it went to was this twitter.com/it's Aydrian as well, and some header information that you may or may not care about. And I'm guessing that since the circle is now completely filled, we've gone through the life cycle of a message in Courier. Is that correct?
Yeah, this is like the happy path for basically anyone that receives email notifications that you want to see this. Like they actually did go, it was sent to them, they opened it, and if you did set up a link, they actually did click on one of them, and now you're like, boom, whatever I created actually is being received pretty well. So. Yeah.
So I guess, half the battle is getting them to open it. The other half is getting them to interact with it.
Yes.
Great. So you might have noticed that there was one status that we did not see in our timeline besides the click until we fixed it. But there's that delivered. So we have a delivered status. And I know that you worked on this, Tony. So do you want to tell us a little bit about what the delivered status is?
Yeah. So delivered, at least for email integrations, it basically says that after we sent the request to them to do their part of the job, they were able to actually put the message into the recipient's inbox. So this is very email centric. There is one integration, Slack, where we actually will flag something as delivered as soon as you sent it, because there's no way to actually check for deliverability. It just kind of just shows up in your Slack notification. So, but this is a very email centric status right now, and SendGrid's a special child. You actually have to pay to get deliverability checks. It's like $5 a month to get enabled their history. So it's very possible that your integration on this tenant doesn't have it enabled, because it's basically something on the API key that needs to have it turned on.
Yeah, I can tell you that I'm not paying for this account.
Okay. Yeah, you're not going to get deliverability checks for SendGrid emails.
Yeah. But if you're using SendGrid and you want that deliverability check, you can go over to our docs, so docs.trycourier.com, select the integration guides, go down to email integrations, click on SendGrid, and I believe it's email activity tracking.
That's correct. Yep.
All right, and this will walk you through how to set it up. So, like Tony said, there's you have to add that to your API key that you have put inside Courier, and pay for it, and then you will get the delivery. So, if we're going back over here and looking at Courier, and we take a look at one of these events inside the history, it's probably going to show up between sent and opened, or like that would be preferable, right?
Yes. Like deliverability checks are tricky, especially for like these larger email integrations, because it's information that eventually comes back to us. Like they just have so much data that they have to process through that sometimes they just they won't tell you right away that it's delivered. So you might have to, what we have to do on our side is basically kind of say, hey, did you actually deliver the message? And that could take us a couple of retries, like seconds to minutes to hours, depending on the integration. Sure. I would say SendGrid's pretty good that they get back to us within like 10 minutes. So
okay.
There's some providers that do it within seconds, and then there's a integration which I will not name that takes lots of hours and maybe a day or two. So
okay. Well, I think I think that delivered status, and I've worked in email for many years, longer than anyone should. I think once we get an open, which is like I said, one of them that happens in default, it doesn't matter. Like we only worry about was it delivered, if it wasn't opened, if it wasn't clicked. So it's not something that I see needing. It's like an immediate thing, but more of a like what happened here. So a lot of troubleshooting, because I would rather see opened and clicked. But we do try to deliver that back as soon as we can. And that's just, we're working with the providers there. Cool. Well, as you can see, I have a lot of events in here. But unfortunately, in this view, events don't last forever. And if you want to learn more about our log retention, I would check out our pricing page. So we have currently 3 different tiers, and they each have their own log retention. But this is a good segue into, if you want to hold on to this information, we do provide you the ability to access it using our API. So if I go over here to our API documentation, we have a messages API, and we can get all the messages. So pretty much similar to the view that we were just looking at, but in code, we can get a specific message. So if we want to kind of drill in and get a little more information, and we can get the message history. So when we were looking at that timeline over on the left. So let's play with that. I have Insomnia set up to be able to do that. And we'll just kind of talk about the messages API. So we're going to, so this is a get. I'm just going to get everything. And again, I'm sorry, I can't make this bigger. Or the key doesn't work. Oh, wait, zoom in.
Oh, it's just that's weird. I wonder why the keyboard shortcut didn't work.
It did not work. How are we doing? It's very incremental zoom in. All right, so that looks better. Does that look good to you?
Yeah, that looks pretty good.
All right, so you can see that we got back an object. It contains 2 keys. So there's information about paging, and then there's the results. The results, of course, is going to be an array of objects that make up the different events. And so you can see we've got a clicked time, and so this time is actually represented in what's it called?
Epoch, Unix epoch time.
Unix epoch time. So you will need to decode that, but I'm sure everybody's familiar with that. You've got the event, the ID, and so that's equivalent to the message ID. Is that correct?
The ID? Yes, that's correct. That is the message ID.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, like it looks like a message ID. You've got the ID of the notification, the time it was opened, time it was sent, the current status, and the recipient. And so you've got that information. But you'll notice that there, like I mentioned, this paging object. So this is a lot of information. So if you looked at mine, it was at least a couple pages long. We return, I believe is it 10?
It's 10. Yes.
10 at a time.
Yep.
So you can get 10 at a time. And if there is more inside this paging object, you will see a more and then a cursor to get more. So let's go ahead and grab this cursor and grab the next page. So I can come in here and put this in, put this in to the cursor query param. And so you can see it adds it up here. Lovely. And we'll go ahead and we'll hit send. And this is just receiving the next page. And I do have at least, well, I have more than 2 pages. So in this paging,
Looks like it, yeah.
Yeah. So I have more than 2 pages at least. So we are given another cursor to be able to retrieve the next page, and we have the thing that says more. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this off because I want to get the message that we just sent. So I want to find that, and I think a good way to do it is the other thing that we can filter by is by the recipient. So I already have it typed in here. So this is my recipient ID, Aydrian 10036. And whenever we run that, we're only going to get the messages that were sent to this recipient. So this is really nice if you're just trying to like target something. So I believe this is the one. Okay, so this one's got a click time. So that this is the one that we want to look at. We can grab this ID. So this is the message ID. And then we can move on to our next endpoint, which is, that's history. But if we want to get just a single message, I'm going to open up, I'm going to put this in a message ID using my environment variables. And that's good. So that makes that happy. And if we hit send here, this is pulling back all the information about just this one event. And Tony, what extra information are we giving in this route that we didn't give in the overall get messages route?
The big one is the providers array. Okay. So if you have a notification that has multiple channels, we basically kind of tell you the state of how each channel performed. So in this case, I'm guessing your notification just had a SendGrid channel, right? Yeah. So that's why if we look at like lines 10 through 21, that represents the details of your SendGrid channel there. Mm-hmm. And in this case, it should match, the dates should match what's on the outside shell. But if you had a more complicated notification where maybe you had like a best of or always combination with like Slack, SendGrid, Twilio, right, you would get information for each of those channels in this providers array.
Nice. And so these are the channels that it was sent to. So I would
attempted to send to, yeah.
Attempted to send to. Okay. So
go ahead.
If I have a notification and if I went and edited the notification and added Slack to it and sent it, but I didn't have Slack information in and it only sent through SendGrid, I wouldn't see Slack information here.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So we're able to use this endpoint to get go a little deeper into the notification. And then the last endpoint that I want to highlight is the one that actually grabs the history. So I still have that ID in my environment variable, and I'm going to run that. And you can see that it returns an array of results. And this is for each event, right? So Correct. There's a lot of information coming back in here. So we've got a data object, and this is the data object that was passed over. Mm-hmm. Same with the event and the profile that was sent over. So this is kind of equivalent to that first that first tab in the event history, right? Where we're looking at what we sent over. Okay, and then we go on down, and then Yeah, because here we've got the different types. So this is of the type in queued. And then we have a mapped type. And so that's that second tab. And so it's got the information about the actual notification ID that was sent. And the event ID it was mapped to. And as we keep going down, we can see information about the merged profile. This shows a little bit more information. So we can see this is actually the profile that's being used to send the message. This is the merged profile, but you can see what we sent over. So the simple email and that custom object with the Twitter handle. And then you can see what was actually stored inside Courier, what it actually went and retrieved whenever that message was sent. So you could see the merge profile is the product of the received and the stored profile. And you can see it's a profile loaded type. And you can keep going down and see more information. Here is the sent history, the opened history, the clicked in history. And if you had delivered setup, you would also see that. Is there anything else we want to say about this history route?
Not really. It's supposed to mirror what you kind of get from the UI, but it's a programmatic way to get this information too. And it has a very consistent interface. So as you can see, like once you get past like the sent phase, like the structure is similar because you kind of hit the same channel, you hit the same integration structure, and then basically the type of the status plus the timestamp. So
nice. And so this is really good if one, you're wanting to retain this information for much longer than we retain it, but also if you want to be able to build any kind of custom dashboards, I'm guessing, to pull those back into your application. So we have this API that you can pull all that information out. Yeah, I'm trying to. So we've gone through all of the logs in the UI screen. We've gone through the API, and we've sent an email and kind of tracked it through the whole cycle. Is there anything else that we should mention about our logs?
That's pretty thorough.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything else.
I think like for right now, I think we've covered pretty much everything. We're constantly adding things like the preview was new to me. I really enjoyed seeing that. That we do that for email. I haven't seen it for the other ones, but we're constantly adding to this, making it better. But yeah, like I think you have a lot of flexibility to kind of see what's happening at each step of your message, and to be able to also do that programmatically. So let me switch back to a different thing. But yeah, so that's logs. I use them a lot. It's kind of my regular flow when creating a message. I like to see the call come in. I like to see it being mapped. And I'm constantly checking to make sure they're coming back in. An interesting story around the application that I made with Chloe Condon is and I can pull up the notification right here. We created a whole bunch of memes that we send out whenever Daisy May arrives on your island, for those of you who are familiar with Animal Crossing. And our notification, or our email, looks kind of like this, where we have put them all in a line. And then for each one, we've gone in and we've set a filter. So hide this block whenever the random number we pass in is not equal to this value. And so we've done that for all of them. And one Sunday morning, I opened it up and I had no meme. And I was very upset about that. And I was able to go into I was very upset. I was able to go into the logs. And one thing that's great is you can just open it up and I can see what the process that we had running sent to us. So I could go in here, look at the event receive. I could see that the random number that we sent over was 0. And then I could see that the one case that we did not have a meme for was for the 0 case. So I'm betting that like the 10 is actually never hitting because it's like going 0 through 9 instead of 1 through 10. And so I could go in there and be like, oh, shoot. And I can change that, republish, and the next time around, everybody should get one, regardless of what the random number is. So that was a really great exercise of using the logs to debug what was happening with the mail. Also with that project, I like to go in on Sundays and take a look and make sure that everybody who got the message got it and got it at the right time. Because the other thing we had to deal with was time zones. So we wanted messages to go out at 5 a.m. and 11 a.m. And we wanted it to be time zone aware. And we actually have somebody who's subscribed who's living in Australia. So I can actually see that they're going out on Saturday at the right time for them. So it's really nice to be able to go back and look at these logs and kind of investigate what's happening with the messages and make sure that they're going out properly. But yeah, sign up for a free account, sign up for SendGrid, sign up for your email provider of choice, and start sending messages. You can also do any channel you want. I do a lot of email channel, but I also enjoy working with the Slack. But play around with it, take a look at the logs, and tell us what we were building. But I think that wraps up today. I want to thank Tony for joining me to talk about logs. I'm going to say you're an official lumberjack now.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, I did all I could to not do the Ren and Stimpy references. Yeah,
I didn't grow my beard long enough, or have my hat.
Yeah.
Or my flannel shirt is somewhere in the
or your
closet.
axe. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. I like to say Courier logs, they're better than bad. They're good. So thank you for joining us. We will be here same time, same channel next week with a different thing to talk about. And I'm trying to hit the thing. But until then, ta-ta for now.